Today, we're diving into a really complex dispute between an airline, its employees, and their union over travel privileges, a fight that ended up leaving a lot of people grounded for good. It all comes down to this: an email from employee relations with a message that's just final. The decision stands. There is no further review available. For so many employees, this was it, the end of the road.
So the big question is, how did a disagreement over travel benefits spiral so out of control that union members were left with absolutely no recourse? Let's unpack it.
Okay, so our story really kicks off with this huge, sudden move from the company that pretty much nobody saw coming.
It's December 4th, 2025. The company sends out these blanket suspension letters, claiming there was suspicious activity with guest passes. But as you can see from this union memo, they did it without any real transparency. No proof, no due process.
You can just imagine the frustration, right? People were suspended without seeing a shred of evidence. No specific passenger records, no data, not even a simple explanation of what they supposedly did wrong. All they got was a deadline.
In response, the union's main weapon was something called a general grievance. Basically, it's a formal complaint they file for everybody at once, so they can fight the company's action as a single group.
And this is where it all starts to get really complicated. Almost right away, two totally different strategies pop up, and they end up forcing employees to make a very confusing and difficult choice.
First up, the company offered its own path forward. They set up an individual review process where each employee could plead their own case directly to them.
And, as you can see in this email, here's the kicker. To even be part of that process, employees had to actively opt in, and they had a hard deadline to do it, January 9th, 2026.
Meanwhile, the union was heading in a completely different direction. They were pushing the collective grievance, arguing that this was a fight that should be handled for everyone, all together, not case by case.
So, you see the problem here. Employees were caught between a rock and a hard place. The company's path was all about you, your individual case, but you had to raise your hand and opt in. The union's path was supposed to be automatic for the whole group. Two completely separate tracks and no clear map on which one to take.
And stuck right in the middle of all this were the employees, who were getting more and more frustrated with the lack of clear direction from the very people who were supposed to be protecting them.
I mean, listen to this from one of the members. They're saying that people were emailing the union, begging for advice, and just getting radio silence. And this was happening during that really critical window before the company's January 9th deadline.
And this quote really just nails the core of their complaint. Members felt like they should have gotten clear instructions from day one, before any deadlines were looming, so they would know the right move to make.
It didn't take long for all this frustration to spill out into the open. People started posting on social media calling for protection, not memos that send members back to the company and put them at risk.
And that lack of timely advice, well, that leads us right to the heart of the problem. When you lay out the timeline, everything becomes crystal clear.
Okay, just look at this sequence of events. December 4th, the union files its big group grievance. Then, January 9th, the company's deadline for employees to opt in to their individual process. That deadline passes. And then, almost a month later, on February 3rd, the union sends out a memo telling its members to go file individual appeals.
Here's that exact memo. The union is now strongly urging every affected member to submit an appeal directly to the company. The problem? Well, this advice came nearly a whole month after the company's deadline to do that had already passed.
It was 25 days too late. For any member who had trusted the union's initial group strategy and decided to ignore the company's individual process, that door had already been slammed shut and locked.
Which brings us right back to where we started. This final rejection notice, it wasn't about the facts of anyone's case. It all came down to a missed deadline, a deadline that many people missed while they were waiting for guidance that, in the end, just came way too late.
This whole situation just exposes a really painful dilemma, and it leaves us with a pretty critical question to think about. When the very systems that are designed to protect you are actually in conflict with each other, where are you supposed to turn?